Okay, this is what happened in class on day 4, just before finals. So this is day 4 of week 18. These are the answers for the final exam practice. I believe it was 2 that we posted or turned in by Canvas. So here's the answers. If you don't know why the answers are the way they are, then that's where you need to phone a friend or email me with a question, and I'll be happy to answer your question. Check your notes out, see if you can figure out what's happening first. The next one is, for part of that assignment, is declaring a variable, being able to declare a variable. Here's 3 different examples of declaring a variable. You got to have the data type, and you have to have the variable name or identifier and a semicolon. You need those 3 things, and so these are possible answers. The answers will vary, of course. Then we practiced to be able to prompt the user and store their input in 2 different ways, one with the dialog box and one with the scanner object. So the first one was a dialog box. We're asking the user for the 6-period name of their first 6-period class and store it in a variable. So you have to declare the variable first. So you have a memory location that has been set up by the declaration, and it's sitting there and it's empty. And so it's going to have something inputted into it. So in the next line down, you need to have the variable where the input's supposed to go. This is what most people get wrong. Do not include the variable. So you've got to include the variable in an input statement for the J option pane. This is produces a dialog box. This should be memorized. So you need to make sure that you have .show input, not message. That's for something else. And then the I is capitalized, the D is capitalized. And then you have null in the first argument. And then you have a regular literal string here that prompts the user for the name of the 6-period class. What results in an input statement for a dialog box is always a string. So you've got to make sure that the variable that you're storing it in is a string. Otherwise, you have to do some kind of conversion, which we're not dealing with here now, but we have done this before. So right now, for our purposes, just realize you've got to have a string data type for the variable that this is going to be stored in. So what will happen is if the user inputs algebra 1, then that's going to be stored in this variable after they type it and hit enter. Okay, so then the next thing is we accepted input and stored it from a user who was giving some more information, and only this time we're going to use it with a scanner object. And so first of all, you got to declare the variable, so that should be declared, although you could declare it at the same time that you do this statement down here. But we're going to do it right here, and you've got a memory location that is set up with the name, account balance. Like yours could vary. Answers will vary, and right now it's empty. So then we use a print statement. So when you're using the scanner object, you need 2 statements, whereas J option pane only needed 1. And so you've got to have a print statement and an input statement. Okay, so a print statement first, and you're prompting the user to enter the savings account balance in this case. The next statement, which you have to have, or line of code, is going to input, is going to accept the input. So you've got to have a variable, the variable where the response by the user is going to be stored. They're assigned whatever the input is, so you have to have input. If that's the scanner's name, it could be named other things. but it won't matter unless if it's not given on the test, then you can use whatever name you want. .next double, so double's capitalized. It has to be double because we want the user to type something that will have a decimal. It's going to be entered as a decimal into this memory location because that's what we've declared it to be. If it's next int, then you would capitalize the I and go int. So you can do that. That's if you want to store it in an int. If it's a string, then most of the time it would be next line. Be input.next line. Got to have the parentheses, empty parentheses. This will accept the input from the user and store it in a variable. The next thing that we covered is the logic operators of and or and not. So these are going to be compound Boolean expressions. So if A is true and C is true, if they're both true, then that makes the whole expression true. The thing to remember here is we gave an illustration in class. If your mom asks you to do the dishes and take out the trash, and you must do both in order for you to make her happy or to be true. If you only did one of them, then it would not be true. So let's go on to the next one, and that is C is true and B is false. So again, if you just took out the trash but you didn't do the dishes, then you really didn't do what your mom said. So that would be a false. You got to do both, so both must be true. This is all you have to remember. Is this and it with an or means that if she says I need you to take out the trash or do the dishes, then all you have to do is one of them. So only one of them has to be true in order for it to be true. This says true or false, so only one is true, so this whole thing is true right here inside the parentheses. However, the exclamation mark or exclamation point means the word not, so or the opposite of. So not true means false. And then if you have a compound situation here, the thing to remember here is that you do the parentheses first, and then you do the and next, and then you do all the ors from left to right. So the parenthesis first, this actually is the same as up here. So this we're going to go A is true, or B is false, and we're going to do the fake ones. C is true, and D is false, or B is false, and then this expression here is false. Right here. Okay, so we do the ands. So we just did the parentheses. Now we're going to do the and. So we have false and true. So if both have to be true in order to be true. So this is going to now say true or, and then this then becomes false. Well, let's do it this way. So this is true or false. And then we'll just keep on going. we can go ahead and do this false over here. False and false. False and false is going to produce a false. We have one more and to do. So we're going to go rewrite this. Go true or false and false is false. False. And then we have another or. And then another or. Another or. And then F. Okay. So we've done all the ands. Now we do the ors from left to right. So we do this one first. So true and false. True or false. Only one has to be true. So like if you take out the trash but not the dishes, you're still okay. If it's an or. So that's true or false. And then true or false again. So our final answer is true. Alright, those are things to help for the final.